Hello and welcome to State View, a program that looks at legislation on the state level, what happens on Beacon Hill, and really makes sense of all that and how it affects you living here in the state of Massachusetts. Well, visiting from the 1st Norfolk District, we have Representative Bruce Ayers in studio today. So, Representative, great to have you on board.
Thanks, Mark. It's nice to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Always a pleasure. These, updates that we have from time to time, very helpful. They're helpful for folks in your district, but a lot of legislation is just Massachusetts-based. Therefore, it really affects folks throughout the state.
That's right. And, as legislators, I think you have to look at things through almost two lenses. As a legislator, you want to vote on issues and advocate for funding for what's good for the entire state, the whole Commonwealth. And just as importantly, you want to focus in on your district, what are the needs of that, and how much money we can advocate for the best or the betterment of the resources and funding there.
We should mention that we have just entered a new legislative session. And just briefly, what does that mean for representatives and senators, for that matter? I mean, what traditionally is done at the beginning of a legislative session?
Sure, great question. And it is in the beginning of the session. We're well underway, though. What it means is legislators such as myself and others have compiled a list of bills that they want to file to be considered for the upcoming legislative session, the next 2 years. Once those bills are all filed, the clerk will send them to the various committees that they're assigned to. Our office filed 72 bills, and now they're all going to the appropriate committees. Once those bills are in committee, we start having the public hearing process. Each bill is given an opportunity for people to come in to testify. Each bill will be heard, and as it moves along to the various committees and then over to the Senate and hopefully to the governor's desk on a lot of these bills to be signed.
You had mentioned committees, so I'm going to ask about committee assignments, because those can change.
That's correct.
From legislative session to legislative session.
That's correct. And I've been fortunate with Speaker Mariano. I've been appointed to 4 committees: Financial Services, Elder Affairs, Public Safety, and Public Service. And on what those committees oversee, Financial Services, they'll oversee legislation that directly involves insurance companies and banking. Public Safety will oversee issues in legislation related to public safety, police, fire, first responders. Elder Affairs oversees issues dealing with our elders. And Public Service will deal with civil service legislation and labor issues. So the very busy committees. I think each committee will be seeing probably 200 to 300 bills. So there'll be a lot of issues before us.
Not much downtime for you, I suppose. Unfortunate for you, but not for folks that rely, and who doesn't rely on items coming out of those committees. That's simply everybody.
It is. And, another good advancement that the Speaker did was to continue the remote option for residents now to testify on Zoom. During COVID-19, the House made an awful lot of adjustments to continue governing. And what we did there is open up all the testimony during COVID. So you could testify right from home on your computer using your Zoom. We've continued that now. So it's important for residents to know that some of the old ways where you had to drive into the State House or take the T into the State House, park, or if people lived down the Cape or western part of the state, it could be really difficult to testify. So they still can, and we obviously encourage them to do that if they like to, and they can still write to their rep or their senator. Or if it's easier, we certainly encourage people to testify right from home.
That is convenient for all of us, actually, to be able to do that. So would that be for the entire legislative session?
For the committee hearings.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, so if there's a particular bill, every 2 years there's approximately 7,000 bills that are filed. And now that they're all going to the various committees they'll be assigned to, it'll all go public. So if someone is on the MassGov website and they're trying to track a bill, they can go on easily, track down what bill it is, what committee it's in, and the date will come up when it's going to be heard for a hearing. Then they could just go online and voice their testimony.
Should we look now at some bills themselves?
Sure, Will. Our office filed 74 bills this year. A lot of those bills were brought to us from constituents, business owners, organizations, and a lot of them are geared to the betterment of the district. They'll deal with education, they'll deal with roadways, workforce development, different ways to improve other resources that deal with legislative matters towards the police and fire. And a lot of bills have to be revamped, be updated to accommodate new rules and regulations. So it's been a busy time.
I know one of those bills filed on your behalf or from you, and I believe it's being refiled, is one that deals with early onset Alzheimer's.
Yes. Currently in Massachusetts, there's 130,000 people diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And reports show that that number will go up to 150,000 by 2025. It's important that we're trying to address this as much as possible. There's an awful lot of legislation out there this year that will be debated before our committees. One of the bills that I have filed directs early onset Alzheimer's. And what this bill would do would simply remove the age provision for early onset. I had a constituent come to me, and his wife had been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 49. And when he looked into healthcare and how he could care for her, he looked into the Mass Health Frail Elder Waiver, which offers home care services that you would get in an assisted living or a nursing home, but at home. But it didn't kick in until the age of 60.
That's key.
It was really key. So he ended up paying for a large portion of this himself. He was a Quincy firefighter. He had to retire. They used up an awful lot of their savings to help just take care for the home coverage. So we looked into this bill. We found out what we needed to do. And what my bill would do to address this is to remove that age provision. So the age of 60 year would be gone, and people would be eligible for these types of services that might suffer from early onset Alzheimer's. It's a small population, but an important one. And what we want to do is to allow residents who care for someone who's suffering from the disease to stay at home, to be in the right environment, to be offered the help and assistance that they need and the caretakers need. You know, it can be challenging.
I wonder if early onset Alzheimer's is on the rise.
Well, some of the statistics show that, and Alzheimer's is such a tough disease, and I think we all probably know someone or a friend who has experienced this disease. So we want to do everything we can as legislators to keep people at home, and this legislation would allow people to do that.
We are recording this program, I believe, the 14th of April. Does that sound about right? I'm not exactly sure of the date. I think so. Anyway, that brings me to talking about the FY24 budget.
Yes, the FY24 budget. Well, the Governor Haley has filed her budget. Speaker Mariano has filed his budget, $56.2 billion budget, and the Senate President Spilka will be filing her budget shortly. So it's a very, very busy time at the State House now, starting deliberations. We're going to be taking up the budget next week. But there's a lot of key components in there that address a lot of the needs in the Commonwealth. Housing, transportation, education, and a lot of needs that come before for us as legislators to work for. And I'm lucky. I work with a lot of great legislators, good guys to boot. Taki Chan, Speaker Mariano, Senator Keenan. One of our most important roles as legislators is to try to get as much money as we can for our districts. As much local aid from Mayor Koch, for the city councilors, the school committee to work with. We want to make sure that we're getting Chapter 90 roadway money, Chapter 70 educational money, additional resources like the school building authority money, so that we can build our new schools and make renovations to some of the maintenance that's required for the older schools. So these are all the types of things that we're going to be advocating for to get as much money as we can for the district.
We should mention that this winter was mild, so as far as wear and tear on the roadways and bridges, not so bad this year, but of course next year could be different.
That's right. We were very fortunate this year, and it always seems to follow up with a bad year the following year, so we'll see how things kind of evolve.
Senior services, obviously a big part of the budget as well.
Yes, senior services, we're trying to work as close as we can to assist our seniors, funding towards resources that encompass the senior services in our area. South Shore Elder Services, that does a great job with all the different programs that they support our constituents with. Our two Council on Agings, I have the Quincy Council on Aging and the Randolph Council on Aging. Tom Clasby does a great job in Quincy, Kerry Sullivan in Randolph. A lot of the programs that run out of there in both those, Meals on Wheels, legal help, financial assistance help, a lot of the programs, and just the social aspects of the programs that go on out there play a key role. And it's important that we try to get as much money we can for those programs that they can expand on.
You had mentioned transportation, and that brings me to a new appointment at the MBTA, and maybe what the outlook seems to be. I know we'll get to ferry service in just a moment, because that is still connected to the MBTA, correct?
Yes, and as you say, there's a new head of the MBTA, and he was recruited out of Long Island, I believe, and now he's
and has experience in railway.
That's right. He's got a big background, and now he's getting acclimated with our MBTA system. So I know he's taken an awful aggressive start. Our office has reached out to talk to him about some of the needs in Quincy. We've also want to talk to him about potential subsidy, perhaps for the Marina Bay Ferry. So he's got an awful lot on his plate. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. So we're going to be working very closely as things evolve there.
I think, I'm not sure which legislator had recommended possibly spinning off the ferry service to an outside entity.
Yeah, there's some pilot programs that are being explored, and we're fortunate, to your point, to be able to partner in our ferry in Marina Bay with the town of Winthrop. We're working now, once again, we're excited to announce that it will be our 8th year of partnering with the town of Winthrop. So collectively, there are public and private entities out there where you can use your resources, because we're fortunate in the city of Quincy to be a seacoast community, and having the infrastructure that was there for the former Deer Island sewer treatment plant, the staging area that they built for that years ago, but to have a parking lot with close to 1,000 spots, a pier, a dock, we needed to capitalize on that, and we needed to offer our constituents another alternative means of transportation. So that's something we've been building over the last 5-10 years. We've taken some steps to make it more conducive for that area. We've extended Commander Shea Boulevard, so there's another road of access that goes right into Squanah Point Park. For people who might not be familiar with the ferry, it's just a nice option. Boston has some of the worst traffic in the world, and we all know what it's like to go over the Ponce Bridge in the morning. So, to go down to Marina Bay,
the anxiety level,
the anxiety level that we all face when you're in a hurry, and if you get a rainy day in other aspects, it could be even longer. So, we need to offer our constituents another alternative means of transportation. So, for $6, you can go from Marina Bay downtown Boston, Central Wharf, Long Wharf. Those are key downtown spots, that residents can go to. I was talking to a constituent who was driving from Quincy to downtown Boston, and he was paying $25 a day, $125 a week to park, and he'd be in traffic anywhere from a half an hour to an hour in some cases, both ways. He decided to take the ferry, and in contrast to what he was doing before, he now parks for free at Marina Bay and takes the ferry $6 each way, $12 round trip, and he's in Boston in 15 minutes.
15
15
as
minutes.
opposed to an hour or more.
That's right. So, this is something we need to offer constituents, and the ferry is not only good for transportation, it's also good for business, for our tourism. There's an awful lot of potential there that we're working for and on all the time. Residents can have an opportunity not only go back and forth to Boston, but we can expand that to go down to southern areas and northern areas. We can expand that to perhaps go to UMass Boston. So this is something we're excited about. Mayor Koch has been a big supporter, the councilors, Maureen Geary, who does an awful lot with the ferry. So we want to encourage people and let them know to go on the website to find out the times, the costs, to see if it might be something they might want to try out. It's going to be starting up very soon and running probably through the end of October. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
And maybe avoid the white knuckle syndrome. Let's talk about roads, I guess, and traffic, as you had mentioned, and talk about a dangerous intersection, probably one of the top 5, I think, in the state, and that's the Ricciuti Drive intersection.
Yes, and you're right, Mark. Ricciuti Drive, that intersection is just in need of mitigation. There's an awful lot of things that have been built up there over the years that's drawing so much more volume of traffic, and it's one of the worst intersections in the city, and it's in the top 5% in the state. So over the last several months, we've been working with Senator Keenan, Councilor Devine, Ali Rule, the Quincy traffic engineer, our state traffic engineer, the state police, and the Quincy police. We've gone out there and had site visits. But to back up just a little bit, back in 2015, there was a development going on up there where before the project was voted on, there was provisions that were added to address some of the mitigation. There was a provision to establish a road safety audit for that intersection. That was one provision. There was a second provision that added an account, a mitigation account, that monies could go in based upon the findings of the road safety audit. So now that that's come to light, we're working closely with city and state officials to make sure that we have the appropriate traffic safety measures there. There will be, based on the findings, traffic lights there.
Right, because we should mention that there are no signals there currently.
No signals there, and that intersection has outgrown that. And what makes it unique is it's shared jurisdiction. It's the city of Quincy and the state. And our intent, and everybody has been great to work with, is to find out collectively how we can work together to make sure there's no jurisdictional issues and work on the monies together. So when the project is complete, the plan would allow for a set of lights in that whole area that would control the traffic, but that might not be up until 2025 and 2026. So with some of the meetings we've been having, we're working to get mitigation monies so we can put in a temporary system that would address the traffic until the permanent system is in place. So we now have it narrowed down to a couple measures. Senator Keenan and I are working on some state funding, hopefully, to address those measures. Councilor Devine has been very active on this, working on it, and I want to thank Ali Rule at the Quincy traffic engineer, and obviously the mayor's office. Everybody has been working awful hard on this, so we'll have some more information as things evolve.
Quincy Shore Drive, that is in your district. Folks will know that as Wollaston Beach. That actually has state control, correct?
That's right. Exactly, Mark. That's a great point because, we live in a big city, over 100,000 people, and, it's important that we are taking the necessary steps to have proper traffic controls that are safe.
And we are entering the summer season, so the beach would be popular.
To your point, and to kind of follow up on the state budget, one of the priorities that we have with the funding, and I recently met with House Ways and Means Chairman Aaron Mikovich and explained to him the need for a special designated state police patrol for Wollaston Beach during the summer. Because currently right now, there are 3 state police patrol that cover South Boston, Dorchester, and Quincy, and 10 miles of intersection I-93. During the summer months, that's not enough to address the increased crowd at Wollaston Beach. So working with Speaker Mariano and Representative Chan and also Senator Keenan, we're fighting for a designated patrol, our own patrol, to address some of the issues. I recently met with Lieutenant Kevin Baker, who's our legislative liaison of the state police, to go over the concerns we have. Now that the summer months are here and the good weather, we want to make sure that they'll be tracking down and cutting down on speeding, littering, loitering, loud music, drinking, undesirable behavior. And this funding that we'll get will also include monies for marked patrols, unmarked patrols, motorcycles, and bikes. So they're going to do zero tolerance. So we want to make sure that Wollaston Beach is going to be clean and safe. And these patrols will also address areas up in the Blue Hills and Firstbrook Parkway, Shea Rink area there.
I'm glad you mentioned that as well.
Yeah, so it's important that, we're taking the proper steps. So during the summer season, we can control and prevent any problems.
We know how quickly the temperature can turn from relatively cooler to suddenly very hot. And of course, that creates a whole bunch of activity in beach areas such as Wollaston Beach.
That's right. Quincy's got 27 miles of shoreline, and we need to protect it. We need to preserve it. And there's a lot of groups out there that help us on top of the state agencies. Groups like Friends of Wollaston Beach with Maureen Mazarimis, and those groups really help fill out some of the gaps of things that need to be done. They run great programs. They have beach cleanups. There's a lot of variations that they do. So, when I grew up, I learned to fish, swim, sail there. It's great, and that's what we want. We want our kids to take advantage of the programs down there. We want to make sure the yacht clubs are being able to use, some of their activities. So that's something we're going to continue to work on.
And we do have 2 graphics. I'd like to bring one up and then follow it with the other. But one is the search for lifeguards. Lifeguards are needed.
They're needed. And it's a great opportunity for someone maybe looking for a summer job. You have to be 16 years old. But I definitely would, I definitely would like anyone who might be interested in a job to take advantage of this opportunity or look into it. So lifeguards can make up to $22 to $23 an hour. There's bonuses up to $1,250 an hour. You're working outside, and there's free training. And supervisors make even more. So for a summer job and close to home, if you're interested in learning more about this, I certainly encourage you to contact our office or contact the Department of Conservation and Recreation for more information.
And staying with employment and with, I suppose, a topic we just left just moments ago, that's the Massachusetts State Police. There's a cadet program. They are also looking for folks to join.
That's right. There's a cadet Mass State Police Cadet Class 2 coming up. The sign-up is May 5th, and the exam date is May 20th. So again, anybody interested in maybe learning more about that, there's a website there they can visit, or they can certainly contact our office. And that's what's great about this show, Mark, is we get an opportunity through yourself to let residents know career opportunities that might be available to them. They may have an interest, and this might be just what it takes to see if it's something they want to pursue, like the cadet program.
The National Guard caucus and a recent site visit to Camp Edwards.
Yes, I've been appointed to the House chair of the National Guard caucus. I work with my good friend and colleague, Senator Vilas. He's the Senate chair. And what we do as chairs is we work with our leaders in the National Guard to make sure that their budgetary requests in the legislative initiatives are being addressed. A lot of times, veterans funding won't encompass some of their needs. And we all know a lot of the great things that the National Guard does for our districts. We've certainly seen it in the city of Quincy during some of the big storms when when there's been disasters and they have to call the National Guard in. They're there. They're always there for us. They do a great job. We saw another example of that during COVID-19. They set up testing sites, testing tents, and just made the difference we needed at times. On a larger scale, there's joint bases around the Cape. I was recently at a tour with Camp Edwards. We were down there addressing some of the needs that they're trying to focus on for the training and the skill sets that they're working on. But it's something where we want to make sure that our National Guard has the equipment they need and the resources they need for some of these challenges they face.
I'd like to address the Helping Hand program. That is expanding. We should mention that there is a new public service announcement that you and I are working on, and we did have some actors join us, and folks will just have to wait to see that. But talk about the program and talk about the expansion.
Yes. Well, you know, in this, the city of Quincy has a large population of seniors, and a lot of those seniors are living on fixed incomes. And the biggest cost they have associated with living on a fixed income, is usually healthcare costs. And we recognize that, and we want to do something about it. And the Helping Hand program helps that by offering free, durable medical equipment to seniors, veterans, anyone in need. We get items like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, commodes, even hospital beds that we store at a facility in North Quincy, and residents come by and pick them up free and keep them as long as they want. So it's something where we recognize that individuals might not have the insurance coverage for this type of equipment, or they might not have the financial resources. So this is just another alternative so they could get free equipment. We were recently working with a senior who was getting discharged from the hospital, and the nurse she was working with was going to send her to an assisted living. But we were able to help her by getting her a hospital bed, a tub bench, a commode, and a few other grab handles to make her house just a little bit more conducive so that she wouldn't have to go into the assisted living building. And working with the nurse, she was satisfied with that, and now she's at home doing her rehab there. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that people are staying at home in their own environment and doing the rehabilitation on their own terms. So sometimes just having some extra equipment can make that difference, and it's free equipment. And, you know, I really
you take donations as well as offer the equipment to folks in need.
We do. And, you know, I really want to thank the residents because it's their help that the program exists. They donate the items they may no longer need. It might be items in their attic or basement. You know, we store it and we give it to people free. And, you know, we just expanded working with the Mass Rehab Commission. Their DME Re-Equip program is a very similar program, but on a larger scale. They have more resources, more equipment, where President Langley has partnered with our group. So, you know, if we might not have a piece of equipment that someone could use, we can work with them to see maybe if they have something to help them out.
I want to thank you for joining me and getting that information out there. Using Quincy Access Television certainly is one great way to do that.
Great. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate your time to be on the show to kind of let people know what's going on at Beacon Hill and share with them some resources that are available.
Very good. We'll have to have you back, definitely.
Thank you.
We'll book you today. Thank you at home for watching. Please remember to support the local access TV station in the town or the city in which you live. Thank you.